Number 18. RAF Menwith Hill, North Yorkshire. There are 37 white spheres on a North Yorkshire hillside, 8 miles east of Harrogate, and they have no business being there. Enter the coordinates 54.0048 minus 1.6873 into Google Earth and zoom in slowly. The green farmland of Nidderdale resolves into hedgerows, then a fenced compound, then something your brain fails to categorize. Geodesic domes ranging from the size of a house to the size of a building, packed across 605 acres in rows. A lunar colony dropped from orbit onto a Yorkshire hill. RAF Menwith Hill, the largest electronic monitoring station in the world. There are road signs pointing to it on the A59. This is where we begin, not with something buried beyond all civilian knowledge, but with something signposted. The US National Security Agency took operational control on the 1st of August, 1966. Each white sphere is a radome, a weatherproof cover for a satellite dish antenna intercepting communications from orbit. By 2017, the base employed 627 American staff and 578 British. 3 additional radomes were approved in August 2019, bringing the total to 37. During the 2009 G20 summit in London, NSA specialists stationed here attempted to decode the encrypted phone calls of Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. The base forms part of the alleged ECHELON global interception network, a system whose existence a European Parliament committee confirmed in 2000 with the precise language of people who had just confirmed something they wished they had not. You are standing on the A59, pulled over because you cannot quite believe what you are looking at. The nearest spheres are close enough to see the seams in the geodesic panels. There is no sign explaining what they do. There is only the one telling you where to turn. A van with American plates passes without slowing. 17. RAF Fylingdales, North York Moors National Park, North Yorkshire. 40 miles northeast, on the open heather of the North York Moors, 8 miles from Whitby. The second Yorkshire entry requires a different kind of processing. RAF Fylingdales is a grey truncated pyramid, 40 meters tall, with 3 phased array radar faces, each 84 feet across, each containing 2,560 modules. Its tracking range is 3,000 nautical miles. It is one of 3 ballistic missile early warning system stations globally. The others are in Greenland and Alaska. Its data feeds to NORAD in Colorado. Its motto, displayed on the base, is Vigilamus. We are watching. The original 3 golf ball radomes, operational from 1963, became locally beloved. They appeared on postcards. Coach tours to Whitby switched the radio on so passengers could hear the radar interference as static. When they were demolished in November 1992, locals mourned them. Nobody has ever mourned the pyramid. The pyramid watches the sky above a national park, and it does not require the approval of those who walk past it on the moor. That raises a question worth sitting with. Is it more unsettling that these installations are hidden or that they are not? 16. GCHQ, the Donut. Ben Hall, Cheltenham, Gloucestershire. Zoom into Cheltenham. Not the racecourse, the suburb of Ben Hall, 1.5 miles from the town centre, where the satellite image resolves into a perfect ring approximately 175 meters in diameter, surrounded concentrically by car parks. From above, it reads as a bullseye. This is GCHQ. The government communications headquarters opened here in 2003. Built by Carillion to an American design by Gensler, at a construction cost of £337 million. The moving cost rose from an original estimate of £41 million to over £450 million because GCHQ had to move its own classified computers itself. The final bill was more than 7 times what was projected. It is the largest building constructed for secret intelligence outside the United States. It was too small from day one. A second GCHQ building was subsequently built at an undisclosed Gloucestershire location. The director of GCHQ has no office. Their desk sits, in their own description, within shouting distance of lawyers. In October 2014, 1,308 members of staff formed a 38-meter red poppy in the courtyard using red rain ponchos clearly visible from satellite. Britain's most secretive employer arranged itself into aerial photography for the Royal British Legion. 15. Orford Ness. The Cold War Pagodas, Orford, Suffolk coast. 40 miles northeast on the Suffolk coast, something older waits. Take the ferry from Orford Quay on a National Trust open day and walk 2 miles south along the shingle. Eventually, the Pagodas. 2 brutalist concrete structures with massive flat roofs supported by 16 columns each, looking like ruins from a civilization with different values than ours. They were built in 1960 by the Atomic Weapons Research Establishment to test nuclear bombs, not to detonate them, but to simulate delivery conditions, vibration, temperature extremes, and acceleration. The roofs were designed to contain a blast of 400 pounds of high explosive. The lorry access doors face out to sea, because whatever went wrong was supposed to go wrong toward open water. The Atomic Weapons Research Establishment left in 1971. In 2023, the National Trust deployed robotic dogs to survey Labs 4 and 5. Too dangerous for human entry. It was the first use of this technology by the National Trust anywhere. Glenn Pearce, Orford Ness operations manager, said at the time the buildings have always had a certain mystery about them. When they were built and in use during the Cold War, they were shrouded in secrecy, and after they were decommissioned, they fell into disrepair. W.G. Sebald called this place Britain's Bikini Atoll. The nuclear age left its temples on a Suffolk shingle spit and now sends robots to look inside them. The pagodas are being allowed to decay by policy, curated ruin, the National Trust calls it, which is either an act of honest historical witness or a way of saying that some things are too dangerous and too expensive and too complicated to do anything else with, and naming that a philosophy makes it easier to live with. 14. Sealand. North Sea, approximately 12 kilometers off the Suffolk and Essex coasts. There is a country in the North Sea, 12 kilometers off the Suffolk coast, with a population of 1. Enter 51.8900 1.4762. For a long time, open grey water. Then a small, 2-towered steel platform on stilts, a deck approximately 40 meters by 15 meters, no island beneath it, no harbour around it. One person lives there. Her Majesty's Fort Ruffs was built in 1942 to defend the Thames estuary against German mine-laying aircraft. It was abandoned after the war. In September 1967, Major Paddy Roy Bates occupied it and declared the Principality of Sealand. A British court ruled it lay outside UK territorial waters, and Bates treated this as recognition. In 1978, German and Dutch businessmen staged an armed invasion while Roy was away. They took his son, Michael, hostage. Roy returned by helicopter, retook the fort with a pistol, and held the invaders as prisoners of war. They were released after a German diplomat visited. In 2007, the Pirate Bay attempted to purchase Sealand for €750 million, approximately £985 million in 2024 values, to use as a data haven outside any national jurisdiction. They could not afford it. The UK extended its territorial waters in 1987, placing Sealand legally within British jurisdiction. Sealand continues to claim sovereignty. As of August 2024, one permanent resident. You are looking at these coordinates from a browser window somewhere warm and dry. The platform is out there now, in the actual North Sea, in whatever weather the North Sea is currently providing, with one person on it. They have a flag. They have sovereignty, in some meaningful sense of a word that was already complicated. The question of whether Sealand is a joke or a principle is not one the platform resolves for you. 13. Denge sound mirrors the listening ears. Greatstone-on-Sea, Romney Marsh, Kent. 50 kilometers southwest on the Kent coast near Dungeness, 3 concrete structures sit on a flooded island in a disused gravel pit, accessible only by a locked swing bridge. These are the Denge sound mirrors. They were built from 1928 to 1935 by Dr. William Sansom Tucker. The largest is a curved concrete wall 60 meters long, one of only 2 such structures in the world. It was designed to focus sound waves from approaching enemy aircraft onto a microphone, detectable from 15 miles. In 1939, instructions were given to destroy the mirrors. Nobody acted on them. The honest consideration is this: the mirrors were obsolete before they finished building them. Radar was being developed from 1932 onwards. The technology that made them unnecessary arrived while the concrete was still curing. They were abandoned on their flooded island, a demolition order left unexecuted, and they are now scheduled monuments. They stand in the Kent marshes, listening to nothing, waiting for an invasion that never came, made unnecessary by the better technology that arrived while they were being built. Number 12, Jodrell Bank, the Lovell Telescope near Goostrey, Cheshire. 20 miles south of Manchester, in a Cheshire field near Goostrey, something is looking at the sky. The Lovell Telescope, 76 meters in diameter, a perfect white circle from above, mounted on 2 steel towers. Grade 1 listed building. UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2019. Operational since 1957. The world's 3rd largest steerable radio telescope. Visible from Manchester Airport Terminal 1. Built next to a botanical research station because nobody imagined what it would become. Construction began in 1952. It became operational just in time to track Sputnik's booster rocket on the 12th of October, 1957. It was the only telescope in the world capable of doing so. During the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962, it monitored Soviet satellite launches from a Cheshire field, providing a few minutes' warning of any potential launch. The telescope nearly bankrupted the University of Manchester. Lord Nuffield paid off the final £50,000 debt in May 1960 because its role in the space race had made it too famous to let fail. A researcher who worked here in the 1950s described years later tracking the Pioneer 5 probe to a distance of 8 million miles, the Lovell being the only antenna left receiving its signal. That quality of solitude, he said, of being the only instrument still listening to something very far away, was not something you entirely forgot. You can visit Jodrell Bank with an admission ticket, walk around the base of the telescope, and look up at 76 meters of white steel dish angled at whatever part of the universe it is currently studying. The visitor center has a cafe. UNESCO has a plaque. The telescope does not care about either. 100 miles southeast, near Leiston in East Suffolk, something far more complicated is currently happening. Sizewell B, the UK's only pressurized water reactor, has been operational since February 1995 and currently generates 1,195 megawatts with a life extension to 2055 planned. It sits as a white dome directly on the coast. To its north is the decommissioning skeleton of Sizewell A, whose turbine hall was demolished in 2025. Further north, visible in satellite imagery from April 2025, lie the brown earthworks of Sizewell C. The final investment decision was signed on the 22nd of July 2025. Its projected cost is £38 billion, originally estimated at £20 billion. Full-scale construction is underway from early 2026. In January 2025, archaeologists found 321 silver coins from the reigns of Harold I, Harthacnut, and Edward the Confessor. The coins had been buried between 1036 and 1044 and were uncovered during preparatory excavations. In January 2026, a full Anglo-Saxon burial ground was discovered at the Sizewell C site. Britain is building its next nuclear reactor on top of 11th century graves. It stands beside a plant whose reactor buildings will not be cleared until 2088, and next to a white dome that will run until 2055. 3 generations of nuclear power, 1 Suffolk beach, all simultaneously visible from above. If you've made it this far, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. It is completely free, and we bring new videos about our country. 10. RAF Spadeadam, Britain's secret rocket program. Near Gilsland, Cumbria. Deep in the forests north of Hadrian's Wall, near Gilsland in Cumbria, there is a clearing. In it, built into the slope of Greymere Hill, are 2 colossal reinforced concrete structures with blast walls and the unmistakable geometry of things designed to contain enormous forces. The test stands of the former Spadeadam rocket establishment, built to hold the Blue Streak missile upright while its engines were fired at full thrust. Blue Streak was 24 meters tall, with twin Rolls-Royce RZ-2 engines. It was Britain's intermediate-range ballistic missile, the rocket that was supposed to be the independent nuclear deterrent. The first test firing was in August 1959. The program was cancelled in April 1960. 4 years, then nothing. The concrete remains. RAF Spadeadam now covers 9,000 acres, Europe's largest electronic warfare training range. The Cold War structures are scheduled monuments. A section of an actual Blue Streak rocket stands near the guardhouse. 500 meters southeast of the test stands, in the valley of a small stream, is an underground missile silo. Construction began in 1958. It was abandoned in 1960, covered over, and forgotten for 44 years until forestry workers accidentally uncovered it in 2004. The technology developed for this silo directly influenced United States Titan II silo designs, which remained operational until 1987. Britain lost track of a missile silo for 44 years and found it during tree felling. 9. Dungeness Nuclear Power Stations, Lydd, Romney Marsh, Kent. 200 miles south is the Dungeness Peninsula in Kent, England's only true shingle desert, flat and treeless, the color of pencil lead. On it are 2 nuclear power stations. Dungeness A was in service from 1965 to 2006 and is now in decommissioning. Dungeness B was in service from 1983 to 2023 and is offline now. Neither is generating. Yards from the reactor buildings is Prospect Cottage, the black-painted home where filmmaker Derek Jarman spent his last years before his death in 1994, making a celebrated garden from driftwood and stones found on the shingle. His garden became one of the most photographed images of late 20th century British culture. You are standing on the shingle at Dungeness at low tide, late afternoon, the light going grey. Behind you, the reactor buildings, their geometry too regular for this landscape. In front, the beach, the sea, and a horizon that offers nothing back. The desert was here before the reactors. The desert will be here after them. The Romney, Hythe, and Dymchurch miniature railway still runs. RAF Machrihanish, Campbelltown on the Kintyre Peninsula in Argyll and Bute. At the very tip of Kintyre, where Scotland narrows to a point and the Atlantic is visible on both sides, there is a runway. What makes it immediately visible from satellite is not its existence, but its length, 3,049 meters. The longest runway in Scotland was built in the early 1960s and was paid for by NATO to accommodate Avro Vulcan strategic nuclear bombers, RAF Machrihanish, Scotland's Area 51. During the Cold War, this was one of NATO's most sensitive European installations. The Nuclear Aviation Weapons Facility stored over 100 nuclear depth charges and torpedoes for anti-submarine operations at the GCHQ Gap. US Navy SEALs, Naval Special Warfare Detachment 1, were based here. From the 1980s, a Prestwick Airport radar controller reported tracking unknown aircraft near the base at Mach 6. Windows shattered in Machrihanish village. The Americans spent tens of millions upgrading the base in the late 1980s and handed it back to the Ministry of Defense in 1995, 5 years later. In May 2012, the community bought it under Scotland's right to buy legislation. The nuclear igloos remain visible from satellite. On the 2nd of June 1994, 10 miles away on the Mull of Kintyre, RAF Chinook ZD 576 struck a hillside, killing all 29 on board, 25 of them intelligence officers and analysts. The cause was never definitively established. 7. RAF Bentwaters and Rendlesham Forest, Britain's Roswell. Woodbridge, East Suffolk. 80 miles southeast, in East Suffolk near Woodbridge, 2 Cold War airfield footprints, RAF Bentwaters to the north and RAF Woodbridge to the west, flank Rendlesham Forest. Both have been derelict since 1993. In the forest between them, the Forestry Commission has placed a public walking trail marker at the approximate site of a UAP encounter reported on the 26th of December, 1980. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, the deputy base commander, investigated personally, and he made an audio recording while observing the lights. That recording is still publicly available today. In June 2010, he signed a notarized affidavit asserting extraterrestrial origin and government cover-up. The Ministry of Defence's position was that there was no threat to national security and that it was never investigated. A 2018 researcher reported a claim that the incident was a deliberate SAS security test that escalated beyond control. RAF Bentwaters was used in 2005 as a filming location for a Channel 4 reality show, disguised as a Russian spaceport because it already looked like a foreign military installation. Whether you find it reassuring that the British state is willing to put a Forestry Commission sign on the most documented unexplained incident in its military history, or whether you find it unsettling, is a judgment this list cannot make for you. Number 6. Imber, the ghost village on the firing range, Warminster, Salisbury Plain, Wiltshire. In November 1943, 150 people were told they had 47 days to leave their homes. They were told it was temporary. The village would be returned within 6 months of the war's end. They packed what they could, said goodbye, and left. Imber. They never came back. Imber was evacuated so US forces could practice urban street fighting before the invasion of Normandy. The military found the arrangement convenient. After 1945, the arrangement continued. Since 1951, the census has recorded Imber's population as 0, and it has remained at every census since. It is an active Ministry of Defence urban warfare training ground. From satellite, the signs are clear. Roads, building footprints, a 12th century Grade 1 listed church, and prefabricated training structures that look nothing like Wiltshire vernacular. No cars, no gardens, nothing moving. The local bus service still lists Imber as a destination, 1 day a year. The annual Imber bus runs from Warminster and Salisbury for a village that has had no residents since the Attlee government. A retired teacher from Warminster, whose mother was evacuated as a child, told a local paper that the hardest thing was not the loss of the house. It was the loss of the argument. You can argue with a flood. You cannot argue with a form of words that says the matter is settled. Burials continue in St. Giles churchyard. It is the only form of permanent return the village permits. The congregation travels from elsewhere. The dead, uniquely, are allowed to stay. You are walking through Imber on an open day in late summer. The village is full for one afternoon. Families from the bus, photographers, local historians. The prefabricated training structures give the streets a quality of theatre. At the edge of the village, someone has placed flowers on a doorstep that leads into nothing. The door has been removed. The flowers are fresh. 5. Dounreay, the golf ball, at the edge of Scotland. Thurso, Caithness, Highland. At the top of mainland Scotland, 9 miles west of Thurso, a sphere sits on the edge of the Pentland Firth. It is approximately 65 meters in diameter, the outer containment of the Dounreay fast reactor. The most turbulent tidal strait in Britain is behind it, and the North Atlantic is beyond that. From satellite, it looks like a golf ball, abandoned at the edge of the world. The Dounreay Nuclear Power Development Establishment was sited here because remoteness from population was considered desirable. The Dounreay fast reactor first reached criticality in May 1958. In 1961, it became the world's first commercial fast breeder reactor. It operated until 1977. That year, an unlined underground shaft used to dump nuclear waste cracked and exploded from hydrogen gas buildup. Radioactive particles scattered into the sea. This was not publicly disclosed for years. Almost 500 particles have been found on 3 local beaches since 1983. A 2-kilometer fishing ban around the discharge point remains in place. The site will not be turned to brownfield land until approximately 2336, 345 years from now. Flannan Isles Lighthouse, where 3 men vanished. Outer Hebrides, Highland. 250 miles southwest, in the Atlantic, and 20 miles west of Lewis, there is a group of rocks. Zoom in at 58.2870, minus 7.5890. Nothing at first, then a rocky archipelago, and on the largest island, Elian Moor, a 23-meter lighthouse, built between 1895 and 1899. As of December 1900, the keepers were James Ducat, principal, aged 43, Thomas Marshall, aged 28, and Donald MacArthur, aged 40. On approximately the 15th of December, all three vanished without a trace. No bodies were found. No explanation. The relief vessel Hesperus arrived on Boxing Day. The clock had stopped. The log contained only routine entries up to the 13th. Captain Harvey sent a telegram to the Northern Lighthouse Board. It read, "A dreadful accident has happened at Flannan's. The three keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and the Occasional have disappeared from the island. The uneaten meal on the table, the overturned chair, details in every retelling are fabrications invented by poet Wilfred Wilson Gibson for his 1912 ballad. They appear in no official account. The actual log entries contain nothing but routine observations. The official conclusion was a rogue wave. That explanation has been considered too mundane for most retellings. The lighthouse was automated in 1971. It still flashes. It marks the position of a building that has held this secret for 126 years and shows no sign of offering it up. The real question the Flannan Isles leaves you with is not what happened. It is whether the fact that no explanation has been found makes the loss of three men more or less bearable, and whether the invented details, the overturned chair and the uneaten meal, persisted because a fiction with shape is easier to carry than a fact with none. 3. Dinorwig Power Station, the mountain that opens. Above Llanberis in Gwynedd, North Wales, Elydir Fawr has been scooped out. The quarry terraces are visible on the mountain's face. Two reservoirs sit there, Lyn Peris below and Marchlan Moor above. From satellite, the surface gives up almost nothing. What it does not give up is the turbine hall inside the mountain, 180 meters long, 23 meters wide, 60 meters tall, larger than Westminster Cathedral. It contains 6 turbines, generating 1,728 megawatts, and it is reachable from standby in 75 seconds. Dinorwig Power Station was built from 1974 to 1984 at the cost of 11 million tons of excavated rock. The system pumps water uphill during low demand and releases it downhill through turbines during surge. The surge it was specifically designed for is the TV pickup, the simultaneous spike when millions of people switch kettles on at once. When 1990 World Cup semi-final ended, the demand spike was one of the largest grid events ever recorded. Inside Elydir Fawr, the mountain responded. It still does. A mountain in Wales is Britain's emergency kettle infrastructure, completely invisible from above, present only in the reservoirs, the quarry scar, and the knowledge that something the size of a cathedral is operating inside the rock. 2. Gulf of Corryvreckan. Between Jura and Scarborough, Argyll and Bute. Between Jura and Scarborough, in the Inner Hebrides, in the kilometre-wide channel of the Gulf of Corryvreckan, the sea does something it should not. At flood tide, 8.5 knots of current meets a submerged basalt pinnacle rising from 220 meters at its base to 29 meters below the surface. Standing waves reach 9 meters, and the roar is audible 10 miles away. It is the world's third largest whirlpool. The Admiralty's West Coast pilot calls it very violent and dangerous. No vessel should then attempt this passage without local knowledge. In August 1947, George Orwell was at Barnhill on Jura, writing the novel that would become 1984. He misread the tide tables, steered into the Gulf, and his outboard engine sheared off into the sea. He was saved when the whirlpool receded. A passing lobster boat found him on a rocky outcrop. The novel was finished. The whirlpool is still there. Its Gaelic name, Corryvreckan, means the cauldron of the speckled seas. If the satellite image captured the Gulf at flood tide during a spring tide, you can see it. Churned white water, a surface in distress. If it passed at slack water, the channel looks like any other Scottish sea. The map shows what it found at the moment it looked, not what is always there. That is perhaps the most honest note about satellite imagery, and about this entire list, the map is not the place. The coordinates are not the experience. The image is a record of a single moment, not a guarantee of what you will find when you arrive. What you will find when you arrive is the thing itself, and that for most of these 18 locations is something the image cannot prepare you for. Number 1. Cape Wrath, Dungeness, Sutherland, Highland. This is the most remote mainland headland in Britain. Cape Wrath is in Sutherland, 11 miles west of Dungeness. There is no road connection to the mainland network. A small foot ferry crosses the Kyle of Dungeness at Keeldale. A minibus runs from the landing to the Lighthouse. NATO has been bombing Cape Wrath since the 1930s. The Cape Wrath training area is one of the Alliance's most important live fire ranges, with air-to-ground strikes on Garvey Island offshore, naval gunfire from frigates and destroyers firing their main guns at land targets, and ground force live fire training. It is one of only 2 such naval gunfire ranges in NATO. The crater impacts on the interior terrain are visible in satellite imagery, pale discoloration and pockmarked ground, the accumulated evidence of 9 decades of ordnance on a landscape with no residence and no road, and no use except this one. You can visit when the range is not active. You take the ferry. You wait for the minibus. You stand at the lighthouse above Atlantic cliffs with the bombing range behind you. The bus only runs when the bombing has stopped. These 18 places share one thing. They are visible. Every one of them can be found by anyone with an internet connection and a free afternoon. The satellite image does not distinguish between a classified installation and a public park. It sees everything with the same indifference. The map that was once the tool of empires, the thing that gave states their shape and told armies where to go, is now something you hold in your hand to look at the world's largest electronic monitoring station, or a sea fort in the North Sea, declaring itself a country, or 3 generations of nuclear history on a Suffolk beach, where archaeologists are currently excavating Anglo-Saxon graves. What this list cannot tell you is what that means, whether the visibility makes these places less alarming or more, whether the fact that you can find RAF Menwith Hill on Google Maps, road signs and everything is reassuring, or is precisely the opposite of reassuring. Whether the Flannan Isles Lighthouse, still flashing on its automated cycle in the Atlantic, is a monument to the mystery it holds, or simply evidence that lights are kept because lights are kept and nobody has decided otherwise. Britain contains, in its relatively small geography, a complete archive of the 20th century's obsessions, surveillance, deterrence, atomic ambition, Cold War paranoia, the specific British method of doing enormous things in small places and then not quite knowing what to do with them next. The pagodas decay on their shingle spit. The pyramid watches the sky above the moors. The mountain keeps the lights on. At the very top of the country, a sphere sits on the Atlantic edge with a cleanup date more than 3 centuries away. If you have been to any of these places, if you have walked the shingle at Orford, or followed the trail in Rendlesham Forest, or taken the bus to Imber on an open day, tell us what you found. The research gives you the coordinates. The coordinates give you the image. What neither gives you is what it feels like to stand there in the actual light of the actual afternoon, with the map still open in your hand. That part is yours. If you found this useful, there is more. Subscribe. You will not want to miss what is coming next.